Hello, my lovelies. Welcome back to True Talk Tuesday, where we get the real deal on real estate. My name is Shalisa Muehlberger, and I am a realtor in Central Florida with S&D Real Estate Services. Every Tuesday, I come on here and I go live both on Facebook and YouTube. I did try for a hot minute. I did try for a hot minute Instagram, and I'm just having way too many technical difficulties. So for right now, we ain't doing Instagram. But that's not off the table in the future. You can see some of the clips though on my Instagram. If you're ever looking to get in touch with me, I will always have in my bio a link to my digital card and you can get a hold of me there. Tonight is one of our boring nights. I'm sorry. We need to do it though, right? In order for us to be educated about the market, we got to look at some facts. And one of the number one facts is also boring, and that's numbers. Some people get really jazzed though about numbers. I have been in a couple of different trainings lately, so that way I can learn how to better interpret these numbers for you. And I've been in a couple of trainings where, like, man, they really get jazzed about, oh, you see what this is doing, you see what that's doing, and it makes learning fun because they're excited by it. So I'm gonna try to be excited by numbers. So that way it makes learning fun for you guys, right? If nothing else, I'm just gonna be, hey, look. No. All right. So tonight, one of the things that I posted on my Facebook, and it should have gone over to the Instagram as well. But what I posted on Facebook, it was a side by side of last month's numbers for Lakeland, Florida, which that's where I'm based out of, is Lakeland, Florida. So it was last month's numbers for Lakeland versus this month's numbers for Lakeland. And I mean, they are just very minute little changes. Now, I am very, very excited to see what the numbers look like. And see, this is where me getting excited by numbers is going to sound weird, but I'm very excited to see what the numbers are doing for March when we can finally get those out. Now, I get I was asked, well, I asked, when do the new numbers come out each month, right? And I've been told that it is the 16th or 17th of each month that they will release the previous month. So that's why today I was like, all right, let's do it. The new numbers are out. So we're going to look at like the very small, minute numbers. I am going to also show you the pattern. The patterns are pretty wild. And when you understand real estate and have been around it during these time periods, it's really interesting to see the patterns on paper, the patterns that you lived through, the patterns that you're like, whoa, yeah, I remember that. I remember what was going on about that time, right? So there are patterns that I'm going to show you. And we are also going to talk about like what all this means with what everything, like, where are we with being able to get into homes? Is it a seller's market? As always, we're going to talk whether it's a seller's market or is it a buyer's market or is it a neutral market? So first I'm going to pull up. This is the side by side that I was telling you I have on my Facebook. So you can see where in January closed sales were 69. In February, the closed sales were 64. So very minute drop in closed sales you see in February. Then you see where it says median time to contract. Medium time to contract in January was 56 days, which means when we list the home, how many days does it take before we get it under contract? So it was taking us about 56 days to get a home under contract in January. Right now, we are at 64. All right. These two right here, minute little changes, right? They could suggest that we are moving to a more we're moving towards more of a buyer's market, right? Last time I told you we were leaning towards seller's market, and the reason being is because those days to contract, right? And we see now that it's taking a little bit, just a little bit longer to go under contract. That could mean a couple of different things, but also remember that last time I told you, we don't look at just one or two variables. We're looking at the variables as a whole, and we're also going to look at patterns and see what those patterns mean for us right now. All right. So, median percentage of original list price. Now, in a seller's market, that's going to be 99% or above, right? That means 99 to 100% of sellers are either getting what they've listed for or above. Last month, we saw 94.6. We are slowly trending upward. We are slowly trending upward, but there's some that could mean, yes, we're going to a seller's market, right? We're heading into a seller's market. I will say from what I've seen the last 2 days of looking at my hot sheets, yeah, there's some interesting things happening with pending and listing. And I look at it and I see a pattern that I haven't been talked to about. So I'm always like, am I seeing this wrong? But I see a pattern, and that's why I'm really super excited about what March numbers come out. So we can look at this again in March and go, what happened? So right now we are seeing a little bit more sellers getting the price that they ask for. The reason why I'm also super excited about March numbers is we are seeing a lot more multiple offers. I say a lot more. We were not in, I'll show you the pattern. I'll show you the 2-year span that I'm about to show you. We were in a span of time where that wasn't a thing, especially not last year. If you did get multiple offers, you were either listed under market value, or it was just a piece of property that had been very sought after, right? And that was few and far between. So I did not see and did not have a lot of agents that talked to said that they had gotten multiple offers. Starting in January, though, we started seeing a little bit more multiple offers. And right now I've heard of quite a few multiple offers. So that's interesting. I mean, that's also like a tell for seller's market. Like we're going into a seller's market. So there's interesting little movements, right? These little tiny movements. Okay. All right. Nerd stop, right? So median sale price, what was the median sale price last month? Well, in January we were at 312,500 for Lakeland. Right now we are at 310. So that's a little bit of an adjustment, and we've been seeing this. We've been seeing these little micro adjustments and the sales prices going down a bit. If we are truly about to get into a multiple offer situation, if we're starting to trend upward to this multiple offer, I can see this median price starting to rise again, and definitely the percentage that we see is going to rise again, right? So these two numbers are the numbers that I'm going to be looking at the most to try to tell me whether or not we're in a seller's market. Right now, February, it went down. It's like it is not in concordance with itself right now. New listings. So in January, we had 129 new listings, and in February, we had 103. So all of this isn't just singular, right? Like we're not, let me take this out. We're not looking at just one number and deciding, okay, it's definitely a buyer's market. It's definitely a seller's market. No, we're looking at these little tiny things, but we are also needing to look at them in connection with each other. And so that's why I felt like it was really important tonight for me to go over some of the patterns that we've seen over the last 2 years. So that way, when we look at these numbers and we see what they're going on, you're like, you hear me talking, right? You hear me, but you don't know for yourself. You've not tracked these, or and if you have, like, cool, tell me in the comments that I've tracked them. And I'm interested, right? But most of us have not tracked these. So me just going over the numbers each month and telling you, okay, it's a seller's market or it's a neutral market, that's cool. That's great for some, but some people are like, but how? So let's look at but how, right? This is the one for February that we just went over. We saw that in, comparison to January. Now this thing right here, This is from February of 2024, the month's supply of inventory that we've had, right? You know that right now we're at 3.5. We've been at 3.5 since November of 2025. I know that because of this right over here. Okay. So at the very far right, you'll see where it kind of flat lines from November. We have had the same months of supply for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. All right. So if that starts changing, but this is what I want to show you. When we were getting multiple offers, we were in the beginning of, I'll say it was 2023 when I came in. I came into real estate in 2022. So from 2022 to about April of 2024, things were pretty good. Like we had, houses that stayed on the market for a little bit. We were seeing a slowdown. Right? But I want you to see we had, less than 3 months supply of inventory. And we know from our conversations that less than a certain amount, less than 4%, right? Less than 5%. We are definitely in a seller's market because we've got a lot of buyers trying to buy, houses, and there's not a lot of houses to choose from. So, but in going through this, it was in about April of 2024 that things just kind of seized up. We just saw the market kind of like seize up. And from there, hey Gail, I'm glad you finally made it. You've been working. From there, we started seeing that the inventory supply started to stack. We started seeing more and more supply on the market, right? And you can see that in April of 2025, we had a surplus of 5 months on the market. And what's weird is when you look at all of this, we had a surplus because what was going on with the rates? You remember what's going on with the rates back then? We didn't have a lot of buyers. We didn't have a lot of buyers wanting to buy houses. So of course, you saw the inventory supply up, right? It's not helpful for the sellers, right? So that's what I was talking about. These patterns, like you see them and they're in concordance with other things. And now you understand, okay, yes, that on paper looks like it was a great time, but it was not, okay? Because of what was going on. We were looking at pending inventory over the last 2 years. And again, remember I said it was about April of 2024. When we look at about April of 2024, back before April, it's a not steady line, but it's not drastic. But once we get into April of 2024, man, things just start going crazy. Absolutely crazy. We have really lows, that we have real highs. And what is that for? Why are we doing that? Well, again, it depends on the rates. What's happening with the rates? Okay. That's how we see, like, again, rates kind of went skyrocketed for a minute. So you see less pending inventory, right? Whereas in the other slide, we saw more inventory, right? Because there was less pending, there was less buyers out there, right? That's what was going on. And then when we started seeing like the rates kind of go back down and we were getting a little bit more, we start seeing pending inventory go back up. What happens in November? What happens in November 2025? We see the rates go up just slightly, right? And then in December, the rates drop again. So then that's why we see this kind of back and forth. It has to do with rates. Again, one model isn't going to tell you the whole story, right? So let me pull this down because I want you to see my full face when I tell you this, all right? When you ask me, and this sounds like, I know, this sounds like such a salesy answer, and I don't mean it for it to sound that way. It's the educated answer that I have, okay? When people ask me, how's the market? My knee-jerk reaction is to ask them, what do you need of it? What are you looking from it? Are you looking to sell your house? Or are you looking to buy your house, right? And ultimately they're wanting to know if this is the right time for them. That that is a factor that runs into what's going on personally in your life. What do you need right now? What are your goals right now, your financial goals? All of that on top of what's the interest rates like? How many, days to market, right? There's a plethora of things that need to be, understood, and it depends on your situation. So as salesy as this is, when people ask me, like, "How's the market?" I really do wanna know, what do you need out of it? Because that depends on where we go from here. Waiting around when you have a certain goal to get through, right? Say, like, you are having a baby, right? You're having a baby and you live in a studio apartment. Obviously, you need at least now a two-bedroom house. You might not want to rent anymore because you have a little one on the way, right? So now you need a two-bedroom house. Well, it's not the market that's dictating that. It is your personal life. It's the things that are going on in your life. So sometimes, yes, the market might be doing what the market do, right? But we still need to work within it to get you what you need. And I stay up to date on these numbers so that way I can work within it to get you what you need. I can understand what's happening. I've said it once and I'll say it 1,000 times. One of the reasons why I brand myself as whimsical is because whimsy is creative solutions, right? It is thinking outside of the box. It is seeing things for not what they are, but what they could be. So a lot of times I have to get to know you. That's what I want to do is I want to get to know you. I want to know what are your dreams, what are the things that you need, where are your finances right now, right? Because we're going to work with that. I'm not going to make you house poor. So let's work within that. Those are the type of things. The market is going to be what the market is going to be. And your situation is going to make that another piece of the puzzle. All right? All right. So let's put this slide back up on the stage here so I can show you the rest because it's still cool, right? So we look at median time to contract again, right? We get about April of 2024, and you notice like there's no real big like you've got a little bit of days to contract on here. It's after that that we start really getting into spikes. Why? Because there was more inventory, right? There was less pending because buyers had, for whatever reason, cold feet because of the rate, even though we will say, and I know it's cliche, we date the rate, we marry the house. All right, guys? All right. All right. So all of those things are affecting what you see as this pattern. All right. That pattern gets affected by all of it. So we are not going to look at just one number ever. What does all this mean for my buyers and sellers right now? I will say, just from what I've been looking at with my hot sheets as of late, March is going to be an interesting month with these numbers. I have seen a couple of different things. One of them is kind of concerning. I will say that concerning yet not concerning. I don't know how to interpret this. So you do with this information what you will. Right now, I'm still trying to process the information in my head. But I have seen a lot more short sales on MLS than I had before, right? So that's good and bad. And that can be good for buyers that are willing to wait because of short sales. I I have yet to hear of a short sale that closes in 30 days. Like that's not done. All right. Most of the time short sales can be anywhere from 3 months to a year to close. So short sales, basically what a short sale is that um the seller of the house cannot afford to pay the whole loan, right? So what they're going to do first is they're going to ask the bank, "Hey, can you take less than what we owe? Can you take less than what we owe and call us even if we can get the house sold?" And sometimes the banks will say, yeah, that's great. And some banks will, we're not going to do that. We're going to foreclose. So this is a way of avoiding foreclosure, is a short sale. But a short sale requires the bank to approve the contract, and they have to approve almost everything, right? So it takes longer because banks don't move fast. So, but short sales being up, that can be good for buyers because they're able to buy more home for less. So that can be good. It's a bad thing because we're now seeing more of them. That means the economy locally isn't what we want it to be, right? So that's where it's a bad thing. I've also, like I said, I have seen multiple offers lately, and that's great for sellers. That's great for sellers. Then they have a choice. There's a one that I've heard as of lately. There is a down payment assistance that first-time home buyers can use. It is a government down payment assistance, and so it takes a long time, and the inspections are very nitpicky for those things. So the offer was this full price, but they had this, right? And then there was another one where it wasn't a full price offer, but it was a cash offer. So these type of situations are occurring where sellers are now having to figure out whether or not the full price is what they want, or do they want the fast turnaround. Those are the type of multiple offers that I'm seeing right now. All right. Anybody on have any questions for me? Because I know I've talked a lot about numbers and we can glaze over. I used to, when I was teaching, all right, my students know this one. All right. When I was teaching and I had to lecture on some days, right? And I hated lecturing. Hated lecturing. I tried to make it as fun as possible, but I hated lecturing. But on the days that I had to, I would see sometimes my kids just kind of glaze over. So that's what we do. I tell them to put their hands up in the air. See if I can scoot back a bit. All right. Put your hands up in the air. All right. Touch shoulders. Go down. Touch shoulders. Go up. This is what you do. Right. So I tell them, you keep this. And when I change and you can keep up, I'll give you extra credit. Right. So we would do this. And I tell them, okay, I'm going to change it. 1, 2, 3. And the kids would laugh and they would be like, I can't do it, Miss Amber. But we'd all wake up, right? So if you have glazed over, do your hand exercises, trying to keep up with me. All right, my lovelies. Gail has a question. How can those first-time home buyers with the nitpicky government loans compete with return buyers with private loans / cash offers? That's a great question. A lot of times, if you are in that situation, me as a realtor, I would say, hey, I would like for you to write a letter to the seller explaining to them what this home would mean for you, right? And we would give that along with our offer. So that way, at least the seller can have the choice of, are we doing this because this would help another family, or do they have that, I just need to get out, right? I just need to get out, so I got to take the cash. A lot of times that's not a heart thing. They're not trying to they're not trying to be greedy and just take the money and run. A lot of times it's just what they have to do. So sometimes that can help. The other thing that you can do as far as having nitpicky kind of loans, you want to make sure that you make it as enticing as possible. So you are definitely going to need to take your full 10 to 15 days to inspect. It's because it's a nitpicky government thing. You're going to need that time frame, right? I would say that okay. So what I would do, take your full 15 days to inspect, so that way they have everything and everything can get done, right? I would talk to your lender and find out. I would talk to your lender and I would find out, how many days do you think it's going to take to close, right? Is there anything that we can do that makes this a little more enticing? A lot of times people who are needing the government down payment assistance are also needing concessions. So I would talk to the lender and ask, is there any way that we can come up a bit in price to cover those concessions, right? Is that something that will not affect the payment and the debt to income ratio and all that? Can we do this so that way they can have an above list price? And that's more enticing for them than cash. I will say though, cash is king. And a lot of times people want to deal with cash because there's a lot less headache. So I understand why sellers take it. I understand also that sellers not always take it because they're heartless. They just have to. They just have to. So that's a great question, Gail. Anybody else? Not today? All right. Everybody's quiet. Everybody's quiet. Um, again, if anybody is wondering whether or not today is the day to kind of start selling or buying a home, it's a very quick text to me or a DM, or you can give me a call, you can send me an email, right? I don't care. Just reach out to me and we will talk about whether or not this is possible for you. I have had plenty of buyers and sellers come up to me lately and ask me, is this a good time? I have had a seller that I've told him, like, no, let's hold. Let's hold on your property for a bit, right? So it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to ask. It doesn't hurt to get in there with some questions. All right, my lovelies. All right, my lovelies. Okay. Until next week, come see me on Saturday at Cohatch in downtown Lakeland. We are doing a women's market, a Polk County Women's Mean Business, the networking group. We have a market inside Cohatch. So downtown Lakeland has their downtown market inside Cohatch during the same time period. There will be other vendors. So we ask you to come in and see us, and you'll know that you have the right place because you'll see the green hair, right? You'll see the green hair. All right, my lovelies. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and know that I love you. Because if people can hate for no reason, I can love for no reason. All right, my lovelies. See you later.